All right, Bill, everybody just saw exactly what happened to Tim Brooks, what he did to my Corvette. Armand Hussein had his hand stuck in there also. Everybody saw it. I saw it the night it happened. I've seen it once at KTVT myself, and I came down here and I saw it again tonight. Now, the rules of the bunkhouse match are, as of this, no man is a winner unless the other man cannot get up or is counted down 1, 2, 3. You carry anything into the ring you want to, you wear anything you want to wear. You know, Bill, I've been breaking horses for a long time. And you know, I haven't used these spurs. I want y'all to get a good close-up of this right here. These are a brand new pair of spurs here.
They're heavy.
Tim Brooks. The ones I used to have, I wore them out. But you know, I broke a lot of quarter horses, but I've never broke a jackass before. And this is gonna be my first time with Tim Brooks. And Armand Hussein, if you come out there a little bit later, I'm gonna break you too. Now I'm gonna get on Tim Brooks after I beat him, like I promised everybody I would the last time. I beat him just exactly what I did. The only thing I didn't do is I didn't break his neck like I said I was going to do, and that'll leave, I can leave up to this.
Well, welcome back. We are in Dallas, Texas. We made our way all the way over to Grove Hill Cemetery. And the reason, I want to see the Von Erichs grave. I'm a fan of the movie Iron Claw, and so I made my way all the way out here. I have a few things to do in Texas while I'm here. Seeing the Von Erichs is on the top of my list. So if you know the story about it, very interesting wrestling family. If you don't know the story, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. And thank you to Twin Blends. If you look up Twin Blends Von Erichs grave, they gave me step-by-step instructions on how to find the grave of the family of the Von Erichs. So let's go pay our respects. It's supposed to get up to about 100 today. I guess some storms rolled through earlier. They had some thunderstorms that just like knocked out the power everywhere. And right on cue, a car rolling through. So we're gonna go through. You're gonna make a few rights, lefts. It's kind of tricky, so definitely check out Twin Blends. I really appreciate them showing me how to get to the Von Erichs. Okay, so we've made our way back in here, and thanks again to Twin Blends. I would have never found this without you. So these two trees you'll see, and this big tree off to the side where it says the Myrtle Garden directly to the right. The first we want to point out is Jack Atkinson Jr. Now in the movie and in real life, they talk about Jack. Jack was only 7, and when Fritz was starting his wrestling career, Jack was near a camper that I guess there was an exposed wire that was touching it. It was in the snow, and Jack, as a young boy, touched a part on the trailer that shocked him, and he fell face first into the snow and actually drowned. So you'll hear in the movie Zac Efron talk about, well, I'm not the oldest brother. My brother Jack is. Jack Atkinson Jr. next to David Smith, who was his uncle. Sleep, my son, until I come. Now, with that being said, looking down this way, we're going to go by some of the other brothers and some of the other terrible things that just happened to this family that they went through. And go see their dad as well, who actually survived 5 out of 6 of his children, which is just terrible.
My brothers taught me about wrestling, but I taught them about eating. So he brought us to pizza, and it's all-you-can-eat buffet. You get hot, fresh pizza. Thin crust or pan. Plus, there's plenty of spaghetti, garlic toast, and a salad bar. All for a super low price. That's why I'm paying today. Kev, let me pay. I'll pay for this one. You two pay for the pizza to go. Pizza to go? I thought you were full. These are for Dad. Yeah, sure. For pizza out, it's pizza in. Yeah.
Now, directly down the line, here's David Atkinson, David Von Erich. As you can see, recently his birthday. Happy birthday, David. And it says the yellow rose of Texas, and somebody's left a couple yellow roses. If you look here, too, here's David and Candy Atkinson, the Von Erichs. First name before it was changed by their dad for wrestling purposes. Tag team with Kevin won the 1978 tag team title. Now, he was going to go on to fight Ric Flair, if you remember. And when he was going to fight Ric Flair, he had to go to Japan first. And going to Japan, he had a win over there, and that's the only way that he could win the world title. While David was there, his spleen erupted. Or not his spleen, his intestine, excuse me. His intestine burst. And when that happened, he was alone in his hotel room, and I guess he had some issues leading up to it prior, as the movie depicts. And it said that Bruiser Brody, another wrestler that was over there with him, went to his room and found David on the ground reaching for the phone, and he was dead in his hotel room. And he came back, and when he came back, they had his funeral here. And since his family was such a popular family in Texas, 4,000 to 5,000 people came out to pay respects to David, and they put up a huge TV speaker system, you know, just because he was so beloved. But yes, here lies David Atkinson, who died of somewhat natural causes. Not, we'll get into the others, let's just say that. So that being said, February 9th, 1984, rest in peace, and happy birthday, David, the Yellow Rose of Texas. Now, once we move over from David, I want to say too, one of the things too key with the Von Erichs was their dad, Fritz, let them know, you don't miss a match. No matter what, you do not miss a match. And who knows if that had anything to do with what happened to him, but sadly, he passed. And next we have Michael. As you can see, it says Michael Atkinson, Chris Barton Atkinson, Chris Von Erich, Mike Von Erich. Born March 2nd, 1964, passed away April 13th, 1987. 1930, passed away 9/12/1991. Now, Michael and Chris were both smaller wrestlers, around 5'3", I believe. Chris had asthma, and they were just smaller in frame and stature and everything else. Now, Michael got hurt, and he had to have shoulder surgery, where he gained a fever of over 107 degrees, or at 107 degrees, and he was never really right after that, addicted to painkillers, and so was Chris, and alcohol. And with that being said, after Michael was really messed up, it took a toll on him. Like, he was never really right, and people would say that there was, you know, a difference that people saw in him. Like, he somewhat lost his mind after he went into toxic shock. Nice that somebody brought these flowers out. They said they would see him around town, and he would start arguing with light poles and getting in fights with just objects. And Michael just couldn't take it anymore, being so depressed, and he died from an overdose, supposedly. He took a bunch of pills. They found him after they looked on the farm, the ranch, and he was in his sleeping bag, and they found him, and he was dead in his sleeping bag. Now, Chris was heartbroken by this, and it stayed with Chris for a while, and Chris turned to alcohol and drugs, and it just bothered him so much that Michael was gone. And sadly, Chris took his own life, and I believe it was Kevin that found him, and he shot himself. So I want to show you these. They're not all right next to each other. So here's the road, if you see the truck right there. Jack and Chris are right here, and so is Michael. And then if you see this flag, it looks like this flag is here all the time, actually. Directly from the flag, if you turn left, okay, we'll start over here, and we'll go over these two. This is going to be Jack, Carrie, and also their mom. So this is where Doris Juanita Smith, we'll start with her, Atkinson, is buried. They ended up getting divorced, her and Jack, eventually, after just trial and error, her trial and tribulation, just time and time again. It says Doris Juanita Smith Atkinson, no Von Erich. I'm sure she was done with the Von Erich and Jack Fritz's Von Erich stuff, you know. Her children rise up and call her blessed, and there was no doubt that her sons loved her very, very much. I mean, I just can't say how much. Watch Iron Claw. What a great movie. Now we're going to get into Carrie, and what happened with Carrie is very sad. And with Jack Sr., Fritz Von Erich. Now, he came up with the name Von Erich, and they always felt that the name, after they changed it for this purpose, and as it was said by Kevin, once Jack Jr. died, Jack always felt that he had to make other people feel his pain after losing his son. So he was never the same. He was always a little bit off, a little bit more nastier to the world where, you know, a traumatic thing happened. Now, Kerry was a great wrestler too. Excuse me. And Kerry died 1993. Born February 3rd, died February 18th. Now, with that being said, Jack Sr., he just passed away in 1997, September 10th. And on Kerry, it says, "Walk with my brothers and beloved father for Jack Sr." Wow. As I speak of it, that sound came out of nowhere. It's funny, every time I start taping, like, the sounds around here will stop, and then I'll start talking about what happened, and they just really pick up just out of nowhere. So Kerry, after he won his title, he was on a terrible motorcycle crash, which is way too bad, and he actually lost part of his leg. He wrestled with a prosthetic for years, and people didn't know about that. I know it was very painful for him, and he turned to taking painkillers and drinking as well. And one person said that the crash was so bad that it looked like an alligator chewed off part of his leg. It was just completely mutilated, but he did go on to wrestle some more, and you know, for the time being was all right, until they were about to kind of sunset him or his character, and he wasn't going to be making the main events anymore. He was just going to be doing like local touring shows, and that was too much for him to take. And sadly, Kerry started reaching out for help somewhat to Kevin as well, and Jack said, "That's between you boys, you guys handle that." And Kerry went to the farm, and by the time Kevin got there, he was sadly taking his own life. He left his car and he took a glove off, and Kevin said he knew what happened. He knew that Kerry, you know, pulled a trigger, and Kevin found him with a hole to the head. And Jack Sr. now was a different story. Jack Sr. actually died of brain cancer, and Kevin has been noted to say that his dad was getting real bad in the final days, you know, real angry. But I mean, I'm sure brain cancer had something to do with it. But he did say something as, "What, are you scared of death?" And Kevin said, "No, I'm not, but it takes a lot more to live." And his dad was just probably beaten by losing so many of his kids, and, you know, just trying, and then building something so great that he did, you know, not to be forgotten. Fritz von Erich. That was his stage name, and the kids used to say, "We knew when Dad was losing because people would be cheering because he was the bad guy." Whoa, those things are really going. I think the scary thing is you can't see them, but yeah. So they said, "Yeah, we knew Dad was losing when you'd hear people cheering because he was like the hated guy." But all right, we'll walk down here real quick by David, who just had a birthday. The Yellow Rose of Texas once again. Well, I think that's going to do it here in Dallas, Texas, from the cemetery and the Von Erichs. Very sad story, and like I said, if you've ever seen Iron Claw, or if you don't know about it, check it out. It's on HBO Max right now with Zac Efron. Really well done, really well done. It's not a full-blown wrestling movie, I mean, that's the topic of it, but just this family and the trials and tribulations that they went through is just extraordinary. It's very interesting. On a good note, if there is one, the silver lining. The one son, Kevin Von Erich, is still alive and has, I think he's 67 years old. I think he still lives around in Texas, I believe. He does have children that are wrestling. He does have grandchildren that are wrestling. The Von Erich tapes have all been bought by the WWE, so they own that. They recognize the Von Erichs as one of the premier wrestling families, if not the premier wrestling family from Texas that started it all. Really, you know, I wasn't the biggest wrestling fan. I watched Hulk Hogan, of course, when I was younger and stuff like that, but had no idea how in-depth this was. Very cool. If you know something or have any comments, please reach out to me, and I'd love to hear from them. While I'm out here in Texas, I'm going to go by a couple other places that I actually really had planned, but for now, I think I'm going to go get some barbecue. And as always, please consider subscribing. See you next time.